Who is the essential ad in fantasy baseball? Who is it time to cut bait on? We'll go through all of that in this week's episode of the Rotoworld Fantasy Baseball Ad Drop. My ad for this week is Dodgers outfielder Andy Pages, who's rostered in just 30% of Yahoo leagues. I don't really understand Pages' roster rates right now. The rookie has come up and started every single game since his debut. He's hitting .300 with 2 home runs, 11 runs scored, and 8 RBIs, and that's good for the 55th ranked player in Yahoo standard 5x5 formats over that time. He has very real 55 grade raw power. He hit 31 home runs in 2021. He hit 26 home runs in 2022, but he was limited to just 34 games last year due to injury. I really think that Pages would be on more people's radars if it wasn't for the injured season last year. Prospect guys love him, and he has a really good feel for the strike zone. He's posted double-digit walk rates in every stop along the way. And so I'm not really worried that he doesn't have a walk yet in his MLB career. Pitchers are challenging him and trying to see if he can put the ball in play, and he is. And so I think as pitchers start kind of pitching around him and trying to hit corners, we'll see that plate discipline really shine for Pages. He has a sub 20% walk rate. He has a 10% swinging strike rate. Those are all things we love to see from a rookie making his MLB debut. We saw last year James Outman emerge as a real threat in this Dodgers lineup, and Pages has every bit of that ability. He's not going to run like Outman does. He'll chip in a few steals, but he does not have Outman's speed. However, he has very similar power, and he's going to hit for a higher batting average. So Pages should be a really good contributor in 4 categories, perhaps the same, if not better than Outman in those 4 categories. He's also playing every day right now where Outman isn't. So I really think that Pages needs to be picked up in most formats. We want access to lineups as good as the Dodgers, and Pages is a really accessible way for people to have access to one of the best lineups in baseball right now. The player I want you to hold is Royals outfielder MJ Melendez, who's now rostered in just 57% of Yahoo leagues. As of Tuesday morning, Melendez was the second most dropped hitter in Yahoo formats behind only Heston Kjerstad. Now, on one hand, I fully understand that. He's in the midst of an 0 for 21 slump, and he's hitting just 178 on the season, and those are things that don't entice you to keep him on your roster. However, the profile is actually better than what we saw from Melendez last year. For starters, he's cut his strikeout rate 5% down to just 23%. He's chasing outside of the zone less. He's making almost 80% zone contact. He's swinging and missing less overall. He's making more contact overall. These are all things we really like to see from a hitter who has the raw power that MJ Melendez does. He's also pulling the ball at almost exactly the same rates as last year. He has an 11% barrel rate. He has a 113 mile per hour max exit velocity. So these are all really good things to go along with his 4 home runs. The issue is that he's hitting the ball on the ground more often, and he's getting super unlucky on balls in play with just a 200 batting average on balls in play. His expected batting average is 247, and his expected slugging percentage is 453. Now, we don't want to just give hitters their expected stats and say this is what they're going to do. However, the fact that the expected stats suggest that he should be doing much better, and we've seen these clear changes and improvements in his profile, make me think that there is going to be a rebound here from Melendez in the coming weeks, and so I'd be trying to hold him on my bench if I could. The player I think you could drop is Pittsburgh Pirates starting pitcher Mitch Keller, who's still rostered in 79% of Yahoo leagues. This is more for 10 and 12 team leagues, but I think it's okay to move on from Keller in those formats. He has a 5.18 ERA and a 148 whip on the season and isn't showing any signs that he's different than the pitcher who had a really rough second half of the 2023 season. I know he's flashed some upside before, and he had a great first half of last year, but he's never really been that consistent. His strikeout rate has fallen back to just over 20%. He's giving up hard contact at a higher rate than any year since 2021, with a 43% ideal contact rate allowed. His pitch mix lacks a truly elite pitch. His cutter was his best pitch early last year, but he really lost a feel for it in the second half of last year, and it's really not all the way back. He's throwing it in the zone more, which is good, but it's missing fewer bats and allowing more hard contact. Pitcher List has a stat called Hit Luck that tries to determine how lucky a pitcher is getting on a specific pitch. Last year, Keller had a plus 15 hit luck on his cutter, which means he got 15 outs on balls in play that really should have counted as hits or should have gone for hits. And he's getting far less lucky this year, and we've seen the production on the cutter really drop off. Keller doesn't have any pitches that I feel confident will really miss bats. And so for me, he's just a streamer in good matchups right now in 10 and 12 team formats. You can hold him in deeper formats because we have seen that upside from him, but he's not a pitcher that gives me a lot of confidence right now. For those who hung around this late in the video, I'm going to give you a stash, and I think it's time to start stashing Tampa Bay Rays starting pitcher Shane Bausch, who's rostered in just 24% of Yahoo leagues. I think people forgot about Bausch, but the former top prospect is coming back after missing all of 2023 following Tommy John surgery. And while his minor league success has not carried over into a very small MLB sample size, his raw stuff is electric. Bausch was a top 50 overall prospect, and he was one of the top prospects in the Tampa Bay Rays organization before getting hurt. The future is still bright for him at just 24 years old. Bausch has a fastball that he can run. It sits around 96 miles an hour, and a wicked slider that just carves up hitters. He has a curveball he can throw to both righties and lefties, and it's solid but not great, and then a changeup that he can use to lefties to keep hitters off balance. But this is an arsenal that's going to really be dictated by that fastball slider combination, much like we've seen Jared Jones have success with this season. Bausch is fully recovered from Tommy John surgery, but he did suffer an oblique injury in the spring. However, the Rays said that he wasn't going to make his season debut until about June because they were worried about his innings limit. So the oblique injury really didn't change Bausch's timeline all that much. This weekend, he threw a 3-inning simulated game in extended spring training. He struck out 5 hitters. He should be going on a rehab assignment soon and could return to Tampa Bay's rotation in about 3 or 4 weeks. Since he still has an IL designation in almost all formats, he can be added and put on the injured list. So I think this is the time to really start doing that because there are holes in this Tampa Bay rotation. And so I think that Bausch is going to immediately come back into that rotation when he makes his debut, probably in early June. If he goes on a rehab assignment and starts carving up hitters, which I expect him to do, people are going to start picking him up. So I think now is the time to do that with that rehab assignment coming up really soon. So as a recap, my ad for this week is Dodgers outfielder Andy Pages. My hold is Royals outfielder MJ Melendez. My drop is Pirates starting pitcher Mitch Keller. And my stash is Rays starting pitcher Shane Bausch. Check me back next week for more fantasy baseball ad drops.